The explosions never stopped in the Velaran sector. Captain Junhyuk watched through the thick glass of the observation deck as another Thekmar crystal ship shattered into a million pieces. The alien vessel had been beautiful, like a giant diamond floating through space, but now it was just glittering dust scattered across the darkness. "How long has this been going on?" Lieutenant Sumin asked, standing beside him. Her voice was quiet, almost whispered. 312 years, Junhyuk replied. He looked down at his datapad. That's what the files say. 312 years of constant fighting. Sumin shook her head. I can't imagine it. Fighting for that long. Neither could Junhyuk. Humans had only been in space for 50 years. The idea of a war lasting centuries seemed impossible. But here it was, happening right in front of them. The Thekmar and the Vorthak had been killing each other for longer than any human civilization had existed. The Thekmar looked like living crystals that sang when they moved. Their ships were made of the same crystal material, and when they fought, they created sounds that could be heard through space. The Vorthak were different. They were like machines made of living tissue, constantly changing and growing. Their ships looked like giant insects or sea creatures, always shifting shape. Both species were advanced beyond anything humans had ever seen. The Thekmar could control gravity with their songs. The Vorthak could grow new weapons from their own bodies in minutes, but all they used these amazing abilities for was killing each other. Sir, incoming message from war singer Velthara, the communications officer called out. Put it through, Junhyuk said. The hologram that appeared was tall and thin, made of what looked like blue crystal. When Velthara spoke, her voice was like music, but sad music. Human captain, our fleet needs to move through this system. The Vorthak have taken the mining stations on the third planet. Understood, Warsinger. We'll move our ships out of the way. Thank you. The harmony must be maintained. The hologram flickered and disappeared. Junhyuk frowned. The harmony. That's what the Thekmar called this war. They believed fighting the Vorthak was part of some cosmic music that kept the universe in balance. The Vorthak had their own reasons. They called it the Great Evolution, claiming that fighting the Thekmar made them stronger and better. Captain, Vorthak ships approaching from the other side, Sumin reported. Junhyuk looked out the window again. The Vorthak fleet looked like a swarm of mechanical insects. Their ships pulsed with strange lights and seemed to breathe like living things. Leading them was Grixthal, a Vorthak commander that was part machine, part living creature. It had 3 heads and could think faster than any computer. The battle started without warning. Crystal ships sang their deadly songs while biomechanical vessels grew new weapons and armor. Energy beams cut through space. Missiles that looked like flying creatures hunted down their targets. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Junhyuk's ship was safe. Both sides had agreed that human ships were neutral. They were just here to watch and report back to Earth. But watching was hard. Every explosion meant hundreds or thousands of deaths. Why doesn't anyone stop them? Sumin asked. Everyone has tried, Junhyuk said. He pulled up more files on his datapad. The Ethereal Collective tried to use their mind powers to make them stop fighting. Didn't work. The Machine Confederation sent computer viruses to shut down their weapons. The Thekmar and Vorthak just adapted. The Biosynthesis Union tried to change their genetics, so they wouldn't want to fight anymore. That failed too. Sumin looked at the list of failed attempts. Every major species in the galaxy had tried something. The Quantum Dancers had tried to shift the war into a different dimension. The Time Weavers had attempted to go back and prevent the war from starting. The Energy Shapers had tried to drain all the power from both fleets. Nothing worked. What about economic pressure? Sumin asked. Tried. Both species just started making their own everything. They don't need trade anymore. They've been fighting so long that their entire civilizations exist just to support the war. Outside, more ships were dying. A Thekmar battleship, bigger than a human city, broke apart under Vorthak bioweapon attacks. Its crystal structure sang a final note that could be felt through the hull of their own ship. Then it was gone, but new ships were already coming. Both sides had massive shipyards that worked day and night to build replacements. For every ship that died, 2 more took its place. The war just kept growing. Sir, message from the Galactic Council, the communications officer announced. Put it through. A new hologram appeared. This one was made of pure energy, shifting between different colors. Captain Junhyuk, this is Council Speaker Lumnara. We understand you have been observing the conflict in Velaran sector. Yes, Council Speaker. We're gathering data for Earth's government. Good. We want you to understand the situation fully. This war cannot be stopped. We have tried everything. Every species, every technology, every diplomatic method. The Thekmar and Vorthak are locked in this conflict by their very nature. They have evolved to need this war. Without it, both species would die. June Hyok felt cold. They need the war to survive? Yes. The Thekmar now feed on the harmonic vibrations created by combat. The Vorthak use the constant threat to evolve faster than should be possible. Neither can exist without the other as an enemy. We suggest you observe from a safe distance and prepare Earth for the possibility that this war will spread to other sectors. The hologram disappeared, leaving June Hyok and Sumin alone with the sound of distant explosions. Captain, Sumin said quietly, what if the Council is wrong? What if there is a way to stop this? June Hyuk looked out at the battle again. Ships were still dying. The war was still growing. And somewhere in the distance more fleets were coming to feed the endless hunger for destruction. I don't know, he said, but we're going to find out. Admiral Taewon's fleet arrived in the Valaran sector 3 weeks after Captain June Hyuk's first report. The human ships looked small and basic compared to the alien vessels fighting nearby. Where Thekmar ships were made of crystal and Vorthak ships looked like living creatures. Human ships were simple metal boxes with engines attached. Sir, the Council ships are requesting a meeting, reported Communications Officer Min Dao from the bridge of the flagship. Tell them we'll be ready in 1 hour, Admiral Taewon replied. He was a careful man who had spent 30 years in Earth's military. He wanted to understand everything before making any decisions. Dr. Yoon Hai was already studying the alien data when the Admiral found her in the science lab. She was a small woman with quick eyes who had learned to speak 12 alien languages. Charts and graphs covered every screen around her. What do you think, Doctor? Admiral Taewon asked. It's worse than we thought, she said, pointing to a display showing brain scans. Look at this. I managed to get biological data on both species from the Council archives. The Thekmar brain structure has changed over the last 3 centuries. They literally cannot think without the sound of conflict anymore, and the Vorthak nervous system has become dependent on combat stress hormones. Chief Engineer Bin Young walked over from his workstation. He was covered in grease as usual, having spent the morning checking their ship systems. The technology is the real problem, he said. Both sides have built their entire civilization around making war. Every factory, every research station, every school, it all exists to support the fighting. Admiral Taewon studied the data. So the Council is right? There's no way to stop this? That's what every other species concluded, Dr. Yoon Hai said. The Ethereal Collective tried to change their minds. The Machine Confederation tried to shut down their computers. The Biosynthesis Union tried to modify their genetics. Everyone approached it from their own strength. And it all failed, Bin Young added. The meeting with the Galactic Council took place on a massive station that looked like a glass bubble floating in space. Admiral Taewon brought Dr. Yoon Hai and his strategic team. The council chamber was filled with beings that looked like living energy, machines with glowing eyes and creatures that seemed to be made of pure thought. Council Speaker Lum Nara addressed them directly. Admiral Taewon, we appreciate Earth's interest in galactic affairs. However, this conflict is beyond resolution. We have tried for over a century to end it. Tell me about those attempts, Admiral Taewon said. A machine being with 6 arms spoke up. We sent the most advanced computer viruses ever created into their networks. They adapted within hours. An energy creature added, we used psionic manipulation to try to change their fundamental thinking patterns. They have evolved resistance to mental influence. We even tried genetic modification to remove their aggressive instincts, said a being that looked like a walking tree. The modifications were rejected by their biology. Dr. Yoon Hee leaned forward. What about simply destroying their ability to fight? The council members made sounds that might have been laughter. Doctor, these species have technology far beyond what humans understand. The Thekmar can grow new ships from pure crystal in days. The Vorthak can evolve new weapons from their own bodies. Destruction is temporary. They rebuild faster than anyone can destroy. Besides, Council Speaker Lumnara added, both species are far more advanced than humanity. Your weapons and ships, while adequate for your own defense, would be like throwing stones at a mountain. Admiral Taewon listened quietly. When the council finished explaining, he asked, may we observe the conflict for a few months? We'd like to learn more before we report back to Earth. Of course, the council speaker agreed, but please maintain a safe distance, and do not attempt any intervention. This war has already consumed too many civilizations. Back on the human flagship, Admiral Tai Wan called a meeting with his senior staff. Strategic advisor Ho Jin had been studying military history his entire life. Tactical analyst Na Yun was an expert in how wars were won and lost. What do you think? Admiral Tai Wan asked them. Ho Jin spoke first. Every species that tried to stop this war used their greatest strength. The psychic species tried mind control. The machine species tried computer warfare. The biological species tried genetic changes. And they all failed because they were trying to change what the aliens are, Na Yun added. But what if that's the wrong approach? Dr. Yunhai looked up from her data screens. What do you mean? Look at how humans fight wars, Na Yun explained. We don't try to change our enemy's nature. We destroy their ability to continue fighting. We blow up their factories, sink their ships, cut their supply lines. Bin Young nodded slowly. The other species are all so advanced that they forgot about basic physical destruction. They think in terms of energy manipulation, consciousness alteration, quantum mechanics. But wars are still fought with ships and weapons and supplies. The council said both species can rebuild quickly, Admiral Tai Wan pointed out. Individually, yes, Ho Jin said. But what if we don't destroy ships one at a time? What if we destroy their ability to build ships at all? Dr. Yunhai pulled up new data on her screens. The Thekmar have 17 major shipyards and 43 mining operations. The Vorthak have 12 bioforges and 31 resource-gathering fleets. All of their war-making ability comes from these installations. How are they defended? Admiral Tai Wan asked. Heavily, Na Yun replied. But the defenses are designed to stop alien technology. Energy shields against energy weapons. Biological countermeasures against biological attacks. Quantum barriers against quantum weapons. What about against simple kinetic force? Bin Young asked. What about against good old-fashioned explosions? The room was quiet for a moment. Then Dr. Yoon Hee started typing rapidly on her computer. The Thekmar shields are designed to stop energy weapons and harmonic attacks. The Vorthak defenses are built to resist biological weapons and adaptive technologies, but neither species has faced purely mechanical warfare in centuries. Because no one uses purely mechanical warfare anymore, Ho Jin said. Every advanced species has moved beyond physical weapons. Admiral Tai Wan stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the war continued. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes. New vessels appeared to replace them. The cycle seemed endless. Set up a meeting with Captain Jun Hyuk, he said finally. I want to know everything about how these species fight. And then I want our engineers to start designing something very old-fashioned. Sir? Na Yun asked. Admiral Tai Wan smiled grimly. We're going to remind the galaxy why humans are so good at breaking things. The war room aboard Admiral Tai Wan's flagship was filled with charts, pictures, and data screens. For 2 weeks, the human command staff had studied every detail of the Thekmar and Vorthak conflict. What they found was both fascinating and terrifying. Strategic advisor Ho Jin pointed to a large display showing the battle zones. Every other species that tried to stop this war made the same mistake. They tried to use their most advanced technology. Explain, Admiral Tai Wan said, sipping his coffee. Even in the middle of space, humans needed their coffee. The ethereal collective are pure energy beings, Ho Jin continued, so they tried energy-based solutions. The Machine Confederation are artificial intelligences, so they tried computational warfare. The Biosynthesis Union are genetic masters, so they tried biological modifications. Tactical analyst Na Yun nodded from her workstation. Each species assumed their greatest strength would work. But this war has been going on for over 3 centuries. Both sides have developed defenses against every advanced technology in the galaxy. Dr. Yoon Hai looked up from her biological studies. It's worse than that. They've actually evolved to be dependent on the conflict. The Thekmar now need the harmonic vibrations from combat to survive. The Vorthak use the stress of constant war to trigger rapid evolution. The war isn't just their lifestyle anymore, it's their biology. Lieutenant Su Min, who had been transferred to the flagship, raised her hand. Doctor, I have a question. You said they need the war to survive. But what exactly do they need? Do they need to fight each other specifically, or do they just need to fight? That's a good question, Dr. Yoon Hai said, typing quickly on her computer. Let me check the biological data. After a few minutes, she looked up with surprise. According to this, they just need the combat stimulation. It doesn't have to be against each other specifically. Interesting, Admiral Taiwan said, but that doesn't help us much. We can't just give them someone else to fight. Chief Engineer Bin Young walked in carrying a tablet and looking excited. Actually, sir, I think we're looking at this wrong. Everyone else tried to stop them from wanting to fight. But what if we don't try to change what they want? What if we just make it impossible for them to do what they want? How do you mean? Na-Yun asked. Bin Young set his tablet down on the table. Look, I've been studying their technology. The Tecmar ships are incredible. They can regenerate damage, they can phase through solid matter, they can create gravity fields. The Vorthak ships are amazing too. They adapt to any attack, they grow new weapons in real time, they can heal from almost any injury. We know all this, Ho Jin said. That's why no one can defeat them. Exactly, Bin Young said. Everyone thinks you have to defeat their ships to win. But ships need supplies. They need fuel. They need materials to repair themselves. They need shipyards to build new ones when they're destroyed. Admiral Taiwan leaned forward. Go on. Every species that tried to stop this war focused on the fighting itself. They tried to destroy the fleets or change the aliens' minds, but no one attacked the infrastructure that makes the fighting possible. Dr. Yun Hai pulled up new data on her screen. The Tecmar have 17 major shipyards spread across 8 star systems. The Vorthak have 12 bioforges on 6 different planets. All of their manufacturing capability comes from these facilities. How are they defended? Admiral Taiwan asked. Very well, Na-Un replied, looking at tactical data. But here's the interesting part. They're defended against the kind of attacks that advanced alien species would use. Energy shields, quantum barriers, biofilters, psionic dampeners. What about physical attacks? Sumin asked. Na-Un smiled. That's where it gets interesting. Neither species has faced purely kinetic weapons in over 200 years. Their shields are designed to stop energy beams and exotic matter, not simple kinetic projectiles. Ho Jin was nodding slowly. It makes sense. When everyone in the galaxy fights with energy weapons and reality-bending technology, why would you design defenses against metal bullets and chemical explosives? Admiral Taiwan stood up and began pacing. This was how he always thought through difficult problems. So you're suggesting we use primitive weapons against advanced defenses? Not primitive, Bin Young corrected. Simple. There's a difference. A nuclear bomb isn't primitive, it's just simple compared to a quantum disruptor. A kinetic missile isn't primitive, it's just simple compared to a harmonic resonance weapon. And simple weapons might work because they're unexpected. Dr. Yun Hai added. Admiral Taiwan stopped pacing. What would we need to do this? Bin Young had obviously been thinking about this. We'd need ships designed purely for destruction, not exploration. We'd need weapons that can deliver massive kinetic force. We'd need to hit all their production facilities simultaneously so they can't adapt. The logistics would be enormous, Na-Un said. Both species have installations spread across multiple star systems. We'd need a fleet large enough to attack everywhere at once. How large? Admiral Taiwan asked. Na-Yun did quick calculations on her computer. At least 200 ships? Maybe more. We have 40 ships in this fleet, Ho Jin pointed out. Admiral Taiwan resumed pacing. What if we don't need to destroy everything? What if we just need to destroy their ability to maintain the war? Sumin looked at the tactical displays. What do you mean, sir? Both species have been fighting for centuries. Their economies, their technology, their entire civilizations are built around this war. What if we don't destroy their shipyards permanently? What if we just destroy them faster than they can rebuild? Dr. Yun Hai was typing rapidly. If we could destroy their production capability faster than they can replace it, they'd run out of ships within months. But they'd just adapt, Na-Un said. They'd build new defenses, develop countermeasures. Against what? Bin Young asked. Against kinetic weapons? How do you adapt to a big chunk of metal hitting you really fast? How do you develop countermeasures against chemical explosives? The other species used exotic technologies that could be countered with equally exotic defenses, Ho Jin added. But there's no exotic defense against simple physics. Admiral Taiwan stopped pacing and looked at his staff. Are you all seriously suggesting that we can stop a war that has defeated every advanced species in the galaxy by using simple mechanical force? Yes, sir, they all said at the same time. Admiral Taiwan was quiet for a long moment. Outside the ship, the war continued. Crystal ships sang their deadly songs while biomechanical vessels grew new weapons. Ships exploded and were replaced by new ones. The cycle seemed endless. Bin Young, how long would it take to modify our ships for maximum kinetic impact? 2 weeks, sir. Maybe 3. Naun, how long to plan coordinated strikes on all major installations? 1 week for basic planning, sir. 2 weeks for detailed tactical plans. Dr. Yun Hai, how long to identify all critical infrastructure? The data is already available, sir. I can have a complete list in 2 days. Admiral Tae-wan nodded slowly. Ho-jin, contact Earth Command. Tell them we need every ship they can spare. And tell them to load those ships with the most basic, simple destructive weapons they can find. Sir, the Council specifically told us not to intervene, Su Min pointed out. Admiral Tae-wan smiled grimly. The Council told us not to attempt intervention using the methods that had already failed. They never said anything about trying something completely different. 3 weeks later, the human fleet had grown from 40 ships to over 300. The new arrivals from Earth looked nothing like the exploration vessels that had first come to the Valaran sector. These were machines built for one purpose: destruction. Fleet Commander Wu Tae stood on the bridge of the largest human warship, watching the tactical displays. The ship was called the Earth's Hammer, and it lived up to its name. Where alien ships were elegant and beautiful, this vessel was a simple metal cylinder filled with weapons and engines. All ships report ready, sir, announced Combat Engineer Miso from her station. She had worked for 3 weeks straight to modify the human fleet for what they were about to do. The Galactic Council is requesting communication, reported the communications officer. Ignore them for now, Wu Tae replied. We'll talk to them after we're done. Admiral Tae-wan's voice came through the speakers from his command ship. All units, this is Admiral Tae-wan. Today we're going to try something that has never been attempted before. We're not going to change the nature of the Thekmar and Vorthak. We're not going to try to make them stop wanting to fight. We're simply going to break their toys. On the main display, targets appeared throughout the Valaran sector. 17 Thekmar shipyards glowed in blue. 12 Vorthak bioforges showed in red. Mining stations, supply depots, and manufacturing centers were marked in yellow. Remember, Admiral Tae-wan continued, we're not trying to kill anyone. We're trying to destroy their ability to make war. Hit the facilities, not the people. But if they shoot at you, feel free to shoot back. Miso looked at her engineering displays. Every human ship had been modified with the simplest weapons Earth could provide. Nuclear missiles, kinetic bombardment systems, chemical explosives. Nothing fancy, nothing that could be easily countered by exotic alien defenses. First wave. Begin your attack runs, Wu Tae ordered. 20 human ships broke away from the main fleet and headed toward the nearest Thekmar shipyard. The facility was enormous, a crystal structure the size of a small moon floating in space. It was protected by energy shields that could stop any known weapon in the galaxy. The human ships approached slowly, looking tiny next to the massive crystal construction. Warning signals came from the shipyard telling them to leave. When the humans didn't respond, defensive systems activated. Beams of crystalline energy lanced out from the shipyard, hitting the lead human vessel. The ship's simple metal armor glowed and melted, but the ship kept coming. More energy beams fired, but the human ships spread out and continued their approach. Shields are holding, reported the captain of the lead ship, beginning bombardment. What happened next had never been seen in galactic warfare. Instead of firing energy weapons or exotic matter, the human ships launched simple nuclear missiles. Dozens of them, followed by kinetic projectiles. Essentially big chunks of metal fired at incredible speed. The Thekmar shields stopped the energy from the nuclear explosions, but they couldn't stop the shockwaves. The kinetic projectiles simply punched through shields that were designed to stop energy beams. Within minutes, the beautiful crystal shipyard was cracking and breaking apart. Direct hit on primary construction bay, Miso reported, watching the data feeds. Secondary explosions throughout the facility. Similar attacks were happening throughout the sector. Human ships appeared at every major Thekmar and Vorthak installation simultaneously. The aliens had never faced coordinated attacks on their infrastructure before. They were used to ship-to-ship combat, not industrial warfare. The Vorthak bioforges were equally vulnerable. Their organic defenses were designed to adapt to biological weapons and energy attacks, but they had no answer for simple chemistry. Human ships dropped chemical bombs that destroyed the biological processes keeping the forges alive. Kinetic weapons smashed through structures that could regenerate from energy damage, but couldn't heal from physical destruction. "Sir, the aliens are responding," reported the tactical officer. "Both Thekmar and Vorthak fleets are moving to defend their facilities." "Expected," Wu-Te replied. "Second wave, begin your attacks." More human ships broke away from the main fleet. These targeted the mining operations and supply depots that fed materials to the shipyards and bioforges. The alien fleets racing to defend their construction facilities suddenly found their supply lines under attack. The Thekmar war singer Velthara's voice came through the communications system. "Human fleet commander, cease this attack immediately. You do not understand what you are doing." "Actually, war singer, I understand perfectly," Wu-Te replied. "We're stopping your war. You cannot stop the harmony. The universe requires balance. The universe will be fine without your war," Wu-Te said, then cut the connection. The Vorthak response was more direct. A biomechanical fleet led by Grixthul attacked the human ships directly. The alien vessels were incredibly advanced, able to adapt their weapons and defenses in real time. But adaptation took time, and the human weapons were too simple to adapt to quickly. "Sir, the Vorthak are trying to board our ships," Miso reported. "Let them," Wu-Te said calmly. This surprised everyone on the bridge. "Sir?" the tactical officer asked. "Our ships are built for one purpose," Wu-Te explained. "If they get inside, all they'll find are engines, weapons, and crew quarters. Nothing exotic to study or adapt to. Nothing they can use to develop countermeasures." The Vorthak boarding parties found exactly what Wu-Te had predicted. Human ships were just metal boxes with simple engines and basic weapons. There was nothing for the adaptive aliens to learn from or copy. Meanwhile, the attacks continued. Human engineering teams had calculated exactly how much damage each facility could sustain before becoming non-functional. They delivered that damage precisely, then moved to the next target. Third wave, begin your attacks, Admiral Taewan ordered from his command ship. The third wave targeted the command and control centers that coordinated both alien fleets. These facilities were the most heavily defended, but they were also the most critical. Without central coordination, neither the Thekmar nor Vorthak could effectively organize their scattered forces. Miso watched the tactical displays as human ships systematically destroyed 3 centuries of military infrastructure. "Sir, we're getting reports from all attack groups. Primary objectives achieved across the board. Casualties?" Wu-Te asked. 17 human ships damaged, 3 destroyed. Alien casualties appear minimal. Most facilities were evacuated before we reached them. Wu-Te nodded. That had been part of the plan. They wanted to destroy the aliens' ability to make war, not commit genocide. "Sir, incoming message from the Galactic Council," the communications officer announced. "Put it through," Wu-Te said. Council Speaker Lumnara appeared on the main screen, looking agitated. "Fleet Commander, you must cease this attack immediately. You are interfering with a natural galactic process." "Natural?" Wu-Te asked. "There's nothing natural about a war that's lasted 3 centuries. You do not understand the consequences of your actions. Without this conflict, both species may die. Then they'll adapt," Wu-Te replied. "That's what living things do when their environment changes." The council speaker flickered with angry energy. "You are using primitive methods against advanced civilizations. This is not how galactic conflicts are resolved." "Maybe that's the problem," Wu-Te said. "Maybe the galaxy forgot that sometimes the simplest solution is the best." He cut the connection and turned to me. "So, status report on all targets. All primary objectives. Destroyed or severely damaged," she replied. "Both alien fleets are attempting to regroup, but they have no bases to return to and no supplies to sustain operations." Wu-Te looked at the tactical display. For the first time in 3 centuries, the Velaran sector was quiet. No new ships were being built. No supply convoys were moving. The great war machine that had consumed entire star systems was finally broken. "All ships begin Phase 2, he ordered. "Time to make sure they can't restart this war." 6 months after the human attack, Captain Jun Hyok walked through what had once been the largest Thekmar shipyard in the sector. The beautiful crystal structures were now broken and dark. But something unexpected was happening in the ruins. "Look at this," Dr. Yunhai said, pointing to a group of Thekmar workers. Instead of building weapons, they were creating something that looked like art crystal formations that sang peaceful melodies instead of war songs. Their harmony drive is still there, she explained to June Hyuk, but without the constant combat vibrations. They're expressing it through construction instead of destruction. Lieutenant Sumin joined them, carrying a datapad with the latest reports. The Vorthak are doing something similar. Without the war stress to drive rapid evolution, they're using their adaptive abilities to develop new technologies for rebuilding. Jun Hyuk shook his head in amazement. So they really can survive without the war. More than survive, Dr. Yoon Hai said. They're thriving. Both species are channeling their natural abilities into productive activities instead of mutual destruction. The human fleet had spent the last 6 months making sure neither species could restart the war. Every time the Thecamar tried to build new ships, human vessels appeared and destroyed the construction sites. When the Vorthak attempted to grow new bioforges, human engineers dismantled them with simple explosives. It wasn't genocide. It was just persistent mechanical destruction of anything that could be used to make war. Admiral Taewan's final report was being transmitted to Earth Command from his flagship. The situation in the Valaran sector has stabilized, he said to the recording device. Both alien species have ceased military operations and are adapting to non-combat activities. Fleet Commander Wu Tae and Combat Engineer Miso were reviewing the data from their operations. It's remarkable, Miso said. We didn't change their nature at all. We just removed their ability to express that nature through warfare. The Thecmar still need harmony, Wu Tae agreed. But now they create it through music and art instead of battle songs. The Vorthak still need evolutionary pressure, but now they get it from the challenge of rebuilding their civilization. The Galactic Council had finally agreed to meet with the human leadership. The meeting took place on the same station where they had first dismissed human intervention as impossible. Council Speaker Lumnara looked different somehow. Less certain, less superior. Admiral Taewan, we must admit that your methods have achieved what we thought impossible. Thank you. Council Speaker, Admiral Taewan replied politely. However, Lumnara continued, we are concerned about the implications. If mechanical force can solve problems that advanced technologies cannot, what does this mean for galactic civilization? Strategic Advisor Ho-Jin spoke up. It means that sometimes the most sophisticated problems require the most direct solutions. But your methods are so primitive, another council member said. This one looked like a machine with glowing circuits. You used simple kinetic weapons against beings capable of manipulating reality itself. That's exactly why it worked, tactical analyst Na Yoon explained. Every species in the galaxy has become so advanced that they forgot about basic physics. You all fight with energy and consciousness and quantum fields. No one uses simple mechanical force anymore. It's like the old human story about the Emperor's new clothes, Dr. Yoon Hai added. Everyone was so focused on seeing something complex and sophisticated that they missed the simple truth. Council Speaker Lumnara was quiet for a moment. Then she said, we have received requests from 17 other sectors experiencing similar conflicts. Would humanity be willing to provide mechanical intervention? Admiral Taewan smiled. We'd be happy to help. But first I want to make sure everyone understands what we're offering. He stood up and addressed the entire council. We're not offering to solve your problems with superior technology or advanced thinking. We're offering to solve them with simple direct action. Sometimes that means breaking things. Sometimes it means using force. Sometimes it means doing things that seem primitive compared to your capabilities. But it works, Wu Tae added from his position beside the Admiral. Yes, Admiral Taewan agreed. It works because we approach problems differently. While you're trying to transcend physical reality, we're still firmly planted in it. While you're looking for elegant solutions, we're willing to use blunt ones. The council members talked among themselves in languages that sounded like music, mathematical equations and electronic signals. Finally, Lumnara spoke for all of them. We accept your offer of assistance, but we request that you establish protocols to ensure minimal casualties and maximum preservation of cultural heritage. Agreed, Admiral Taewan said. We're not interested in destroying civilizations. We just want to stop unnecessary conflicts. 3 months later, Captain Jun Hyuk received a new assignment. He was being promoted to Admiral and given command of the first human intervention fleet. Their mission was to travel to other sectors where ancient conflicts had resisted all attempts at resolution. Lieutenant Sumin, now promoted to captain, would serve as his second in command. Dr. Yoon Hai was being transferred to head the new Department of Mechanical Diplomacy. Chief Engineer Bin Young was designing a new class of ships specifically for industrial-scale destruction and reconstruction. "Are you ready for this?" Sumin asked Jun Hyuk as they prepared to leave the Valaran sector. Jun Hyuk looked out at the space where the Great War had once raged. Thekmar and Vorthak ships now worked together on construction projects. The crystal beings sang peaceful harmonies while the biomechanical aliens evolved new tools for building, instead of weapons for destroying. "I think so," he said. "It's strange to think that humans might become known as the galaxy's peacemakers." "Peacemakers with very big hammers," Sumin pointed out. Jun Hyuk laughed. "Sometimes that's what peace requires." The human fleet began its journey to the next sector, where another ancient war waited for a simple solution. Behind them, the Valaran sector continued its transformation from a battlefield into something resembling paradise. In the depths of space, alien species across the galaxy were reconsidering their approaches to conflict resolution. The newcomers from Earth had reminded everyone of a fundamental truth. Sometimes the most advanced solution is the one that doesn't try to be advanced at all. And in the files of the Galactic Council, a new entry was added to the database of conflict resolution methods. "When all else fails, call the humans. They will break things until the problem goes away." Admiral Tae-1's final log entry was simple. "Mission accomplished. The war has ended not because we changed what the aliens wanted, but because we made it impossible for them to get what they wanted through violence. Sometimes peace requires force. Sometimes the best diplomacy is a bigger stick, and sometimes the most sophisticated civilizations need to be reminded that reality is still governed by simple physical laws. The galaxy would never look at warfare the same way again, and humanity had found its place among the stars, not as the most advanced species, but as the one willing to use the most direct methods to solve impossible problems. The age of mechanical peace had begun,